What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is probably going to be Monday, October 17th. When you're listening to this podcast, for much of the time that you're watching this podcast, even on YouTube, youtube.com/pick six, because it is close to midnight, which is surprising given how quickly the final Sunday night football game appeared to be tracking. Instead, Mike McCarthy, this timeout, dragged it out. Joining me to probably complain about Mike McCarthy, although maybe give a little bit of credit, Ryan Wilson, John Breech. What's up, boys?
Hey. You know, Mike McCarthy is not even close to being on the hot seat, Breech. I think he's availed himself nicely through no small part of Cooper Rush acting like he's Dak Prescott, sort of 4-1. I think Cooper Rush, the law of averages, caught up with Cooper Rush on Sunday night, and he will now take his place on the bench. He's going to get his gold watch. Thank you for your service, and sayonara.
Yeah, speaking of laws, Wilson, Sunday night seemed more like Murphy's Law for Cooper Rush than the law of averages.
By the way, Breech is coming to us from a bathtub. I don't know what that little joke is, but you can't hear him because it takes his mic about 15 seconds to get warmed up.
What?
So, Breech, explain in 10 seconds what that stupid thing is you just said.
You don't record from a bathtub?
Would go wrong.
Yeah, you don't know Murphy's Law?
Yeah, I do, but I don't know if that qualifies for Cooper Rush.
He threw 3 interceptions in the first half after not turning, or in the game after not turning the ball over a single time. His luck ran out. It's Wilson's same statement, except.
Oh, I see. Okay. I only heard like bits and pieces.
CD Lamb.
Yeah. Okay. We agree. I just couldn't hear you. It's like every third word because your microphone was Brinsoning, as we like to say in the business.
Oh, it's breaching. So don't call it Brinsoning. It's breaching. Every podcast he's to talk for 10 seconds to get his microphone going. We forgot to do. He didn't do it.
In Breech's defense, for the first time in human history, Breech, Brinson rushed us to go live, so you were not prepared for what was about to happen.
Breech bot unprepared for.
And also, this is Brinson's backup equipment. When he complains about something, they send it to me, and I'm stuck using it.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So anyway, Eagles 26, Cowboys 17. Dominant first half for Philadelphia. Looks like they were going to crush the Cowboys. Really impressive third quarter by Dallas and Cooper Rush, who didn't have everything go wrong because clearly he had some things go right. Got him back in the game, got him within 3 points. And then the Eagles, I believe they go to score a touchdown first and then get the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson interception. Was that right?
They were up 17-0, then 73 at the half is all I know. But what I want to talk about specifically.
It was 20-7.
Yes.
17, I mean.
Specifically, do we know if we're going to point fingers at Mike McCarthy or maybe even Kellen Moore? So on the, I think it's midway through the second quarter, 14-0, maybe 17-0 at that point. CD Lamb gets the first down. They mark the ball a good yard short for no clear reason on their own 35-ish. And for reasons that remain a mystery, Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, has the offense rush to the line of scrimmage so they can run a play that involves Cooper Rush throwing the worst incompletion you could imagine, as opposed to just challenging the ball, which would have been overturned. That, to me, was not the turning point, but a play that stuck out as something incredibly stupid and something we would usually make fun of Mike McCarthy about. That's not why they lost this football game, but those are the type of things that drive me crazy, and I'm a middle of the road observer, and I would imagine Cowboys fans were not happy about it either.
Well, the thing was, Mike McCarthy has been such a good coach all year. I mean, we ripped him last year, but he has been coach of the year material through the first 6 weeks, especially winning these games with Cooper Rush, and for that kind of a bonehead play to happen. And that had to come from him because Kellen Moore is not going to be out there calling a fourth down play unless the Cowboys are going for it on fourth down. The only person that has this final say on that is going to be the head coach. And so why are you either wait to give your coaching staff a chance to see if, in fact, CeeDee Lamb did have the first down, or you say, hey, ref, can I get a measurement? And so you play the old stall game. So they measure, and then that gives your coaching staff time to see if you got a first down. The worst option here, the only bad option, is rush to the line and run the next play because it's fourth down because they messed up the spot. And the Cowboys made that happen. It was unbelievable. Like you said, Ryan, it was such a ugly first half that might not have been a huge thing, but it felt like it was pretty big because if the Cowboys still have the ball at their own 36 and they were down 14-9 at that point, if they just go down and get a field goal or a touchdown, it's 14-3, it's 14-7. And then maybe it's a completely different game.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that checks out. They also could have gotten a Noah Brown touchdown catch. It was overturned on replay. after he only got 1 foot in twice, not 2 feet in, which is kind of an interesting argument.
And no butt cheeks.
Yeah, if you get two of the same foot in, should that not count? Tap it twice?
No, that doesn't count.
Obviously not. I'm kidding. Yeah, Brown.
I say.
Yeah. Anyway, look, the Cowboys are 4-2. Cooper Rush finally had the game. Now everybody can shut up about the Dak Prescott thing. This was going to happen at some point. It was just a matter of how long they could string this out to get Dak fully healthy and get him back on the field. And
by the way, sorry, B-Mac made a good point in HQ just a moment ago. 4-1 is fantastic. We'll all take that with Cooper Rush, but you're taking 4-1 with Dak Prescott had he been 100% healthy as well, right?
I'm taking Dak over Cooper Rush.
If he had gone 4-1 in the last 5 games, everyone's ecstatic as a Cowboys fan. Is what I'm asking you.
Yeah, look, like Cooper Rush, you signed for 4-2 right now all day long, coming out of knowing what you know about Dak Prescott's injury.
No, listen to me. If Dak Prescott starts every game is completely healthy, you're ecstatic at going 4-1 over the last 5 games.
Yes,
that's all I'm saying. Like that, so this is like, don't be angry about tonight's game. As Breech,
you get a free roll. It's like a free roll for Cowboys fans. You could easily be like 0-6.
Right.
Granted, the defense is really good, and I'm not saying that the Cowboys are an 0-6 caliber team. It's just that when you lose your starter, particularly on a roster where the offensive line has seen some attrition. They love to feed Zeke Elliott. They don't have the depth at wide receiver that they used to a few years ago. It would be very easy for the Cowboys to have lost a bunch of games with Cooper Rush under center. They found a way to win 4 games to start the season. You're 4-2, 6 weeks in, and you're going to be getting Dak Prescott back sooner than later, probably next week, based on the fact that how Cooper Rush played, although the Eagles defense is pretty good. I don't think you can be that upset if you're Dallas or Dallas fans. Like anybody complaining about it, like you don't understand.
They're living in the wrong simulation. Right.
You are way ahead of the curve on where you should be based on the timeline of events that have occurred for this team and for over the first 6 weeks of the season.
I will say this though, still, despite all the good fortune that's come their way, I won't call it luck, they remain 3rd in the division, Breech, because the Giants are so incredibly good.
Yeah, I think they're fine with that too.
Yeah.
They already have a win over the Giants.
Any concerns? So we talked about the Eagles' second half issues and sort of how they struggled. Obviously, they closed us out 26-17. But again, it got to 20-17, and it really did feel like there was a chance that they could lose the game to Dallas, which would have been devastating given that they had a 20-3 lead at halftime. And I just wonder, do we take anything away from the fact that they allowed Dallas to get back in the game in the third quarter?
I'll just say this quickly, and then Breech, you can answer. This game felt differently because they lost Lane Johnson. And then once they lost Lane Johnson, it changed everything in the second half in terms of how the defense was able to get after Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles ran 9 plays on 2 drives in the third quarter. We obviously saw what the Cowboys offense was able to do. And then they settled down in the fourth quarter. The Eagles did and scored that touchdown.
Yeah, and I think that when the Cowboys cut it to 2017, that next possession kind of became, all right, if the Eagles are for real, they're going to put their foot on the Cowboys' throat, drive down the field, get a touchdown, and just put this game out of reach. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, I think 12 or 13 play drive, 75 yards. And then, so it was like Cowboys fans had 3 minutes of excitement where they're like, oh my gosh, we're within 3 points. We could win this game. And then the Eagles just deflated that whole thing. They put the old pin in the balloon and then just popped everything. And
I agree with you completely on the Lane Johnson thing. Also worth noting that, because that happened early in the third quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And about at the same time, with 11:20 left in the third quarter, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hurt his hand. And so those two things, I'm not saying that they're like, linchpin. I mean, they're very important players, but Lane Johnson going out and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson going out for much of the third period. Micah Parsons was, Dan Quinn really started to utilize Micah Parsons on the right side of the Eagles, attacking on the left side of the Cowboys defense, I guess. But dropped him in coverage against Dallas Goedert after sitting him on a blitz against the backup right tackle. And you could tell that it was a shift in the Lane Johnson thing and the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson thing caused each side of the ball for the Eagles to take a step back in terms of their performance. It was easier to get across the middle against that Eagles defense, and you could attack Jalen Hurts from the left side of the defense. So yeah, maybe that's it. But I mean, and good for them for correcting and getting it back together. And CJJ came back on the field. Lane did not come back. He's in concussion protocol, I believe. Just a reminder that Lane Johnson's an awesome player and a really important part of what the Eagles did.
Yeah, that's why that offense changed when Jack Driscoll came in to play right tackle, and that was pretty much it. Gardner Johnson came back in, had another interception to the touchdown that would have been that Breech previously mentioned the CeeDee Lamb that was underthrown when Cooper Rush was begging for a hit to the face. He didn't get hit to the face. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's a hallmark of a good team. And they've sputtered in the second half in previous weeks. This felt differently just because of the Lane Johnson thing and the other injuries. Landon Dickerson went out for a while as well late in the game. So the good news is they have their bye. Hopefully they can get everyone healthy. And 2 weeks from now, they'll be ready to roll. Their defense is phenomenal. Their offense is steady as she goes. It's incredibly balanced. They can obviously run the ball. And they can, it's sort of cliche to say that the running game travels. But they ran at Micah Parsons all night, and they used Micah Parsons' athleticism against him because they have a pretty good athlete in Jalen Hurts who can run the RPO almost to perfection. And they let Micah Parsons decide where he was going to go, and then Jalen Hurts decided what he was going to do off of that, and it was pretty effective.
Yeah. That was the Cowboys' offensive game plan, or the Eagles' offensive game plan was amazing. The fact that they kind of just went at Micah Parsons, and the Cowboys just had no clue what to do in the first half. And granted, Dan Quinn, they did adjust a little bit and slow him down the second half, but it was just like the Cowboys looked like they had never seen the type of football the Eagles were playing. Like the Eagles had invented a new sport.
Sorry, I'm trying to Google these Spanish insults being thrown at me in the chat. Very interesting.
You wouldn't have to Google it if you knew Spanish.
Boom! Oh, that's a hardcore.
Or can you explain what it means, Breech?
Spanish stuff. No,
Which
because
one?
we're focused on the podcast. We're not.
Yeah, I'm not
squirreling it, looking up the comments. Hey,
I'm
Billy,
not,
let me
I'm
ask
not
you.
squirreling. I'm interacting with the users.
While Brinson learns a little Espanol, let me ask you a question, Billy.
Oh yeah, Billy's got to wait on the Eagles. That's right. Then we got.
Yeah. Hey, are you at all concerned that Nick Sirianni's getting a little too cute, yelling at opposing players on the sidelines, telling them to F off, and then strolling through the tunnel on the way back up, yelling things like, "How about the Eagles?" Or is that just Philly bravado and either like it or F off?
I mean, I kind of think that that's who he is. He's been like that ever since he got here, and it kind of took us aback a little bit because we thought he was being fake at first. As a
That's
as
right.
a
When he
team.
wore the
Like, we
Iverson
did.
jersey.
We thought it was like, all right, you're doing a little too much. Like, win games, especially when we went 1-5 to start the season. Like, win games.
Right.
But now, like, we've seen that this is just who he is as a person, and I mean, I think the guys really galvanized around him. You saw Fletcher Cox in the background there, like showing support for his coach. Like he shows a lot of support for his guys, and they return the favor. So, I mean, it shows on the field. Everybody's in tune, everybody's in sync, and that's kind of what you want with a team that's like has Super Bowl aspirations. You want everybody on the same accord. That's kind of what we looked like in 2017 with Doug Peterson. So, I mean, it's exciting to see, but there's some questions definitely popped up today. So.
Hey, why? Somebody O Plus asked in the chat. How about that unnecessary 2-point conversion at the last TD? What was?
They
what
want
was
to get to 11 as opposed to leaving it to 10. So
I don't
I mean,
understand why you don't run the ball. Like, but I
they
mean,
did.
like,
They ran the ball on the 2-point conversion, did they?
No, the QB sneak. Like, why are you? If you're going
right.
to take the penalty, okay, 1 yard. You just went for it on 4th down earlier in that half, and you've been unstoppable. You're like 13 for 16 on 3rd and 4th and 1s.
And you doing
Who's
the
your
old
quarterback?
doing the old rugby thing again. It's worked every single time.
I don't understand why you just wouldn't kick to go to 10 and then you can't lose with a field goal and a touchdown.
I didn't get
Well,
it either.
I mean, 9 or 10. What's the difference?
But if you have
There's a
9
huge
points,
difference.
there's a huge difference. If they get a touchdown and a field goal, you lose.
Oh yeah. So I think they were unconcerned about. My guess. I mean, I don't know. I didn't care one with the other. I didn't see what the bin bot said. But my guess is that they were unconcerned about Cooper Rush. But yeah, I would have been fine with kicking too, I guess. I didn't put much thought into it at that point.
Look, I got to say this before I get off. It's been a good week for Philadelphia.
All right, get out of here. Get out of
yeah.
here.
No. We took care of Brinson's.
Take off the phone. Be a man.
We took care of Brinson's Atlanta Braves
Oh,
on Friday. We took care of the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. And now we got the Sixers in Boston on Tuesday to close out the week. I'll be there. I'll be supporting my guys. So,
Oh, look at
Philly
you.
to the day I die. Philly versus everybody, man. Philly versus everybody.
That's right. My Eagles versus everybody, Billy. All right.
Stop.
Thanks for weighing in.
Yeah, see what happened.
Okay. That's right. Jalen Hurts, one of just a few to have 6. Wait, what was that? Go back to that. Anyway, well, we'll move on. 6 passing touchdowns and 6 rushing touchdowns in team's first 6 games since 1970. Jalen Hurts this year, Kyler Murray 2020, Cam Newton as a rookie in 2011, and then Cordell Stewart in 1997. Yes, another point made there about the Eagles really quickly. Maher missed that field goal. It would have cut it to 6 because Sirianni went for 2. And if that had happened, then the Cowboys would have covered in this game and not Philly. As noted, like people were like, it wasn't mentioned on the broadcast. You know who would have mentioned it?
Al Michaels.
Al Michaels would have brought it up immediately. Oh, that's a big one for some people out there. Do you know who you are? All right, let's move on to the next game. The highlight of the CBS, really the highlight of the 2022 CBS Sports NFL package. The Bills at the Chiefs. Buffalo comes away with a 24-20 victory. Josh Allen became the first starting quarterback ever to beat Patrick Mahomes twice at Lambeau Field. And Buffalo
Arrowhead.
At Arrowhead Field. Sorry. I was scrolling through the research docs to get back there. And really, it feels like Buffalo kind of continued to exercise some demons as it relates to this Chiefs team that sort of haunted them. They beat them last year, obviously, the regular season.
They beat the hell out of them last year in the regular season.
2 wins against Mahomes, 3 wins against Allen for Mahomes. Both pretty good performances in all those games. I kind of nitpicking. Look, this was just going to be a close game. It was going to be a good game. It was. It wasn't as high scoring as many people believed it would be. The under obviously hit easily. Allen had 27 to 40, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The last 3 years, Allen leads the NFL in most games with 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. 9 of them. Patrick Mahomes is 7th. Tom Brady's 6 and Kirk Cousins 6 as well. And Josh Allen also tied Jim Kelly for most 300-yard pass games plus 3 touchdown games with 12 in Bills history. Clearly, he's going to end up having that record. They were down by 3 and got the ball back with 5:31 remaining. They went 76 yards in 12 plays for the game-winning touchdown, a drive that ate up 4 minutes and 27 seconds off the clock. They only punted twice on Sunday, and they punted just 22 times in their last 11 games, including the postseason. Buffalo is just freaking awesome, man.
So, Breech, a couple things that I want to point out that I thought was funny. I thought it was hilarious at the end of the second quarter, right before halftime, that they pooch kicked it, sort of an homage to the 13 seconds. I think there were 16 seconds on the clock at the time. Of course, the Chiefs still were able to kick that field goal that I'm sure you'll want to talk about. But for me, this game came down to basically 3 plays, because if you look at sort of the team stats, they're virtually identical in terms of the number of plays, the number of first downs, third down conversions, time possession, all that stuff. But it came down to not the superhuman Harrison Butker kick, but the one that he missed later in the second half, the 50-plus yarder. And then it came down to the interception in the end zone on the very first try for the Chiefs. That cost them points. And then, of course, the interception at the end of the game by Patrick Mahomes. And that was the difference. I mean, the spread was the Bills -3, and it was a 4-point game. And I think it's just it's not a moral victory for the Chiefs. They had a lot of guys injured, but the Bills could make the same argument. I'm very much sure that the Chiefs thought they were going to win that game. But for me, it felt like an evenly matched team. The Bills made the fewer mistakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one other part is that it really feels like the Bills, especially in the first half, left a lot of points on the board. Their opening drive, they drove all the way down inside Kansas City's 15, fumbled it away. And then obviously the Chiefs literally did the same thing, drove all the way down to scoring territory. And then Mahomes threw the interception. But then Buffalo also had the one where they drove down and went for it on 4th and goal from the 3-yard line and didn't get it. So it felt like they were moving the ball at will, and it took the Chiefs a little more effort to kind of stay in the game. I don't know if that makes sense. It looked like things were easier for Buffalo. And so, obviously it was a close game, and Harrison Butker's missed field goal was big. And one of the problems with trying those long kicks, not the 62-yard before halftime, because that doesn't matter, is that, you try a 51-yard field goal and you miss, you're giving Josh Allen the ball at the 41-yard line. So now that's easy for him to get down there and get a score. And that's exactly what the Bills did. So instead of the Chiefs getting 3 points, the Bills turn around, get a touchdown on that ensuing drive. And that really did feel kind of like the difference in the game because it was 10-10 at halftime. KC could have gone up 13-10. Nope, you missed the field goal. So now instead of being ahead 13-10, you're trailing 17-10. And so that was definitely a big swing. But yep, Bucker also had a field goal that no one hits, which is that 62-yarder. Just the 13th field goal up 62 yards more in NFL history and the longest in Chiefs franchise history.
I mean, I would assume that like him hitting the 62-yarder before halftime was part of the reason why they were willing to, to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Bucker's a good kicker, and the fact that he made that, because remember he missed the past 4 games with an ankle injury, so Andy Reid's probably think, we'll send him out there just to make sure he's good to go. He nails that, and then you feel comfortable with him kicking anything the rest of the game.
By the way, just for real quickly on the Cowboys Eagles, Dak Prescott was asked about. Ed Wolder asked him if he'll be back this week. Yeah, for sure. That's my plan. Just worth noting.
Also, Breech on that 51-yarder that Bucker missed. 4th and 6, 33-yard line, plus 33. 10-15 third quarter. What was the score in that game? 10-10. Yeah, 10-10. The Ben bot, the Baldwin bot says it's a toss-up as to whether you should go for it or attempt a field goal. Going for it on 4th and 6, the conversion rate's 47%. Field goal attempt is 64%. I don't know if going for it is preferred there. Only that you save yourself 8 yards if you don't get it. If you miss the field goal. I mean, I'm fine with the attempted field goal kick, especially after he smoked a 62-yarder.
Well, I mean, you're at Buffalo's 33, so you can't punt.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, like given the fact that he hit the long one, to me, I'm fine kicking because you go for it there. And again, you give him a short, you're giving him a pretty short field as well if you miss it. But I don't know. I mean, now the other argument would be this, that on 4th, was it 4th and 6? So it's 4th and 6. And we always say, what do we always say? It's like, if you want to beat the Chiefs, you want to beat the Bills, you can't be scared. You've got to be aggressive. The question is, does that also apply to those same teams? Like, do the Chiefs need to be aggressive to beat the Bills? Do the Bills need to be aggressive to beat the Chiefs? You know what I'm saying? Like, usually we're talking about like a team that's overmatched in that situation. Does it apply for these two teams against each other?
Well, the Bills went for it at least on 2 4th downs and didn't get them. I don't know what their total 4th down success rate was, but Breech mentioned one. There was also one.
Bills went 1 for 3.
There you go. 4th and 3 early in the 4th quarter at the plus 46. Josh Allen tried to QB sneak. He didn't get it. They actually were playing that, and then he threw the ball incomplete when it was 17-17. And the next drive, Bucker did make a field goal to make it 20-17. And, things went from there.
Well, and the 4th down they did convert would have been one that would have been hotly debated if they did not convert it. That came when the Chiefs were up 20-17. Buffalo had a 4th and 1 from their own 33-yard line with just under 4 minutes left to play in the game. So you are trailing, you're at your own 33, 4th and 1. If you don't get it, you're basically handing the Chiefs a field goal. And then obviously they went for it. Josh Allen did the QB sneak, got 2 yards, and then they drove down and got the touchdown and won the game. So obviously looks brilliant now. And I feel like they made the right decision there, because when you're talking about 3:45 left, if you don't get it, if you get stopped, your defense has to make a stop. You got to hold the Chiefs to a field goal. Then you're down 23-17. You can still win with a touchdown. If you punt, then the Chiefs go into 4-minute offense mode, try and run out the clock and try and make sure you don't get the ball back. But if they have the ball at the 33, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to do that because there's only room for a couple first downs versus if they had the whole field. So I thought that was a good call by the
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's like if you're on the 33 and you have how many timeouts did they have? They have all.
Yeah, I think they still had all 3.
Yeah, so I think they used the other timeouts actually in the second half. So if you give it up, you're like, all right, look, you can run the ball 3 times and kick a field goal, but you don't want to punt and then let the Chiefs eat up clock because that's what they're very, very good at. Anything else?
On the previous drive that Breech was just talking about, it was still 20-17. That was when one of the few times that the Bills had to punt, and that was because Chris Jones tripped Josh Allen, and it went uncalled, which I can only imagine was a makeup call for last week screwing what's his name, Chris Jones over on the strip sack and calling it a roughing the passer.
Or the refs were still scared to death of the Chiefs fans. They're like, we're not throwing any flags on the Chiefs in this situation. We're not doing it.
It was completely a trip too, but I don't know how you missed those calls, but I'm tired of whinging about it. No one's.
Well, they just got too much stuff they got to deal with. I mean, that's the problem. Like, you just need to give them some more help.
Well, you say it all the time. They have people in New York. How is it?
I mean, give them some more help.
I said I'm not going to get angry. How is it that CBS can call Gene Steratore all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and he has the answers, but no one working for the NFL can call New York? Maybe they should give him Gene Seratore's number.
Ryan, you've said it 1,000 times.
I think the NFL has Gene Seratore's number.
They drink pina coladas and watch the games and throw darts to decide the calls.
That's my bit.
That's Brinson's bit, but it still holds. All right, I'm not getting angry about it. All right,
and also about this game, let's not forget. Let's give a shout out to Tony Romo for correctly predicting the score in the first quarter and going, Jim, this is a defensive battle. This feels like a game that's going to end 24-20. He said that when the score was 0-0 with about 6 minutes left in the first quarter. And of course, because he is Romo Stradamus, it ended up being 24-20.
What, give me a percentage of now the Bills actually winning home field advantage because of this game.
It's got to be pretty
high.
67% high. Whoa. Over under 67%. I couldn't think of over under.
I'll say I think I'd say over, but not by much. I think 70 is probably about right. I mean, the reality is, that tiebreaker over Kansas City is just going to allow them to, just got to keep pace. But
the thing is, like
it just helps. They're one game ahead of every single team in the conference. Like, usually you're tied with someone at this point, or you were just never one full game ahead of every single team at least through 6 weeks. Right.
Okay. By the way, Sean Heiser says that Ryan is going QAnon about NFL refs, which that's actually true.
RAnon. All right, let's move on. The Jets 27, the Packers 10, a stunning outcome in Lambeau Field. The Jets 17-point win over the Packers matches the largest win by any team at Lambeau Field over the Packers when Aaron Rodgers played the entire game. The Packers have lost consecutive games in the regular season for the first time in 5 years. The last time they lost consecutive games, they finished 6-9-1 and missed the postseason. I believe Mike McCarthy got fired that year, or at least got fired the middle. No, I guess it was the middle of the next year where he get canned. Breece Hall. Breece had a monster game first 3 weeks. They weren't really feeding him in New York. Last 3 weeks, 20 carries per game, or 20 touches per game, 132 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns. He's the first Jets rookie with a rushing touchdown in 3 straight games since 1984. And man, he looked awesome. And
is that Freeman McNeil? Do you have it in front of you?
I don't.
Okay. Let's go with Freeman McNeil. I feel like that's an awesome one. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, did you guys see Aaron Rodgers' comments post-game, which were very sort of metaphysical?
Yes.
No. He said, we've got to watch our language and the kind of energy that we're manifesting. But I'm going to be steady with the guys, talking about the players, and I expect our leadership to do the same. And the implication, at least reading the Athletic post-game by Matt Schneidman, is that at points during the week, Matt LaFleur wasn't exactly positive about the mindset coming in this game. And in part because Robert Saleh is his best friend, in part because his brother's on the coaching staff for the Jets, and that perhaps maybe had something to do with it. LaFleur actually said during the week, ultimately, you hate beating up on your buddy in this league, but it is what it is. And I think that perhaps for reading the tea leaves, Aaron Rodgers took issue with that.
Well, and also worth noting that Rodgers last week after the game was asked about looking ahead. Like they lost to the Giants. He was asked about looking ahead. It was like, I don't want to. He's like, I'm not going to answer that because I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. I'm going to tell those guys that sort of body language, that sort of mental approach is not acceptable. And
I get that as a veteran leader. But
that's because some of his teammates had said, "Oh, we'll be fine. We'll beat the Jets next week."
Yeah, but this is also the guy that ran Mike McCarthy out of town, and has been described as prickly by some of his former teammates. So I don't know. I get it. I don't know if any of that mattered once the game started. I think the takeaway for me is that the Jets are better than we thought they were, and the Packers are worse than we thought they were. Aaron Rodgers didn't look great. He got beat up a lot, and that seems to be a recurring theme over the course of the first 6 weeks or so of the season.
It's the third time this season the Packers have not scored 15 points
That's
in
a problem.
game. That is a huge problem. And it's not even that they're worse than we thought they were. It's just their offense is like 1,000 times worse than we thought they were going to be. And I think a lot of people assume they were going to take a step back. You lose Devontae Adams when he's getting 170 targets. Where are those 170 targets going when Aaron Rodgers doesn't trust any of his receivers? What are you supposed to do? And it feels like Robert Saleh really, he said his thought process seemed to be, you know what? Aaron Rodgers doesn't like throwing these guys. They're going to try and run the ball a little bit. No, that didn't work. So now Aaron Rodgers has to throw 41 passes when he hates throwing to everyone on the team. And that, of course, is not going to work. And the Packers were a special teams disaster. I mean, this was the type of team they had. What? They had a field goal blocked, a punt blocked.
A punt block for a touchdown.
Yeah. A punt block for a touchdown. I believe they were the first team since the Packers in the playoffs against the 49ers to have a field goal blocked and a punt block for a touchdown. So
they did also block a punt, but they didn't score a touchdown off of it. Someone in the comments asked what was Jair's comments coming into this week, and he said last week that he wasn't worried about the defense after the loss to the Giants, but would be if the Packers lost the following week being today on Sunday. So that sort of led to all the other conversations we had about the Aaron Rodgers remarks and then LaFleur and all that. And
that's Jair implying we're good as long as we beat the Jets. You know, like we should beat the Jets.
Yeah. And
of course they did not, and they got smoked. And so Brinson, you always bring up the concern scale. What's our concern rate with the Packers on a scale of 1 to 10?
9.5.
Yeah, I mean that ain't even over exaggerating, and Brinson likes to exaggerate.
I mean, it's probably more like a 6.5 or 7 if I'm being like realistic, just because you see.
No, it's not. It's 9.5. This team is playing so poorly that not even Brinson will put them in the Hall of Fame. That's how bad they're playing.
This is the 4th time in Aaron Rodgers' career. He started 3-3 in 2008. He missed the playoffs. In 2010, he won the Super Bowl. 2012, lost the divisional round, and obviously we don't know what is going to happen with them here. I mean, the one thing you could say too, though, is like, you know, it's possible that the Jets and Giants are much better than we think they are. It's also possible the Packers should have taken their bye after coming back from London. We discussed that coming to the week. It's like that's a dangerous spot for Green Bay. No bye. You're bringing the Jets in. This is a coaching staff, as you mentioned, that has an intimate knowledge of what Green Bay likes to do on offense, and really like their philosophy. Rodgers doesn't have, you know, the offensive line's not great this year. The running game was non-existent for him against the Jets. Quentin Williams was an absolute monster in this game, by the way. I believe he blocked the field goal, didn't he?
Blocked the field goal.
It was just all over Rodgers in the backfield. You know, if he's like, that's such an intriguing sort of possible breakout if he's morphing into, you know, a dominant player. And you know, so far this season he definitely has been. It's like if he's that good and Sauce Gardner's going to be this good, you know, this defense has a lot more juice, especially with Robert Saleh calling the plays. By the way, Sauce Gardner, after the game, I'm sure you saw this, grabbed a cheese head and was walking around was leaving Lambeau Field with a cheese head on his head. Al Lazard ran up to and knocked it off his head in an act of defiance.
This is like the TO at the Dallas Star situation. By the way, Victor Garcia makes a good point. Another dunk button situation for Brinson. The Giants didn't take their bye after the London game, and they beat the crap out of the Baltimore Ravens today.
They wouldn't say they beat the crap out of them.
I added that as for a little flourish at the end there. I wanted to ask you guys about this. 4th and 14, fourth quarter, 9:12 to go on the clock. The Jets are whooping the Packers' ass 24-10. Green Bay goes from their own 30-yard line. Or maybe from the other 30. Where did they go for them? I have plus 30 down here. I'm going to assume that it was the Jets' 30-yard line. Is that something you want to do on 4th and 14? Down 14 points with 9 minutes to go. That feels.
Oh, the Jets 37. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was right. The plus.
It felt like. I don't know, it kind of felt like a now or never situation, but yeah, that's
even with 9 minutes to go. The fun. I mean, the ball fell incomplete, so it didn't matter. But insult to injury, there was also offensive holding, which felt about right given how this game unfolded.
And they were going for it on 4th and 14, even though they only had one play in the entire game that went longer than 14 yards.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, the lack of Adams has just killed the explosiveness in this team.
As Brinson used to say, and he hasn't said in quite a while, desperation is what is it?
Stinky cologne.
Stinky cologne.
You know, we always talk about how Aaron Rodgers kind of checks out if
Billy, write that one down. Desperation is a stinky cologne from Super.
If he gets frustrated, or if he starts to get frustrated, and I don't know that we necessarily saw that, but do you think? What if this team loses a couple more games against teams they probably should be beating Like they have the Commanders. What if they got upset by the Commanders or the Lions? They play the next.
They're at Commanders, at Bills, at Lions.
3-game road trip coming up.
Let me ask you this, just a completely hypothetical simulation theory, alternate universe, galaxy brain stuff. Would both these teams be better? Let's assume they have just 2 weeks to prepare. They'll know the playbook. But what happens if you trade Tom Brady to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers to the Buccaneers? Are those teams better? Fresh start, veteran quarterbacks that are almost certainly never going to play again after their last game in Week 18 or whatever it is?
Well, that's a good question.
I think that Aaron Rodgers probably benefits the most because the offensive line is struggling with injuries in Green Bay. But I think
Brady could make the most out of it with like a crappy group of wide receivers.
That's true. But both those quarterbacks, to Breech's point, seem to have checked out to some degree.
Who says if the deal gets in place and both guys have a no trade clause, who exercises their no trade clause first? I think it's probably Brady.
I don't think Brady wants to be anywhere near Green Bay. He picked to live in Florida for a reason.
Yeah, the cold weather. I think Aaron Rodgers is peacing out.
Aaron Rodgers on the first flight out of Green Bay.
Rodgers and the Packers are also 2.5 games back of the Vikings in the division. Tom Brady's still in first in their division, and it's not like anybody looks.
Also, the big loser right now in the NFC North, Mike Zimmer. He gets fired the exact moment that Aaron Rodgers and this offense goes in the tank, and you see Kirby Cousins wearing bling today after their victory.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, more Sunday recap next. Giants 24, Ravens 20.
Hey, quickly, one more thing. We do this all the time. Are the Jets the second best team in that division?
The AFC East is good.
I think they're the second best team in that division.
I still like the Dolphins, and I know the Jets beat them 40-17, but that game was a lot closer. Tua didn't play. You had Teddy Bridgewater. They were on their third quarterback, and the Dolphins still had that close late in the second half. I mean, you could certainly make the argument that it is the Jets.
All right,
I don't think I would.
All right, what's next? You said the
Giants 24, Ravens 20. The Ravens blew their third double-digit lead this season. The defense just can't stop anybody. It doesn't feel like when they need to. Lamar 17-32 for 210, a touchdown and a pick. Yeesh. Kenyon Drake, 10 carries, 119 yards and a touchdown. Clearly, J.K. Dobbins bothered or on some kind of pitch count. Daniel Jones, 19-27, 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Saquon Barkley continued his resurgent season with 22 carries, 83 yards and a touchdown. Nothing super explosive, but a good job running the football nonetheless. Baltimore's up 20-10 when Mark Andrews caught a pass from Lamar Jackson with 12:54 to go in the game, and just promptly gave up 2 straight touchdown drives to the Giants, which, I mean, 12 plays, 75 yards, and obviously they had an interception, 3 plays, 8 yards for that final score. But it's like, if you're supposed to be a great team, which the Ravens in theory should be, this sort of stuff is just inexcusable.
The Ravens could very easily be 5-1, probably 6-0. Go back 2 weeks ago, they pissed that game away against the Bills because we talked about it on fourth. They go for it on fourth down, and Lamar Jackson does the worst thing possible. He throws an interception in the freaking end zone. So instead of being first and 95 yards to go or whatever it was for the Bills, they get the ball at the 20. Last week, Lamar missed a bunch of wide open receivers, and they needed Justin Tucker to save them in the last seconds against the Bengals. And this week, you sort of touched on it. There was the bobble snap. Lamar picked it up, threw a terrible interception that led to points for the Giants. And then on the next drive, he gets strip sacked by Kayvon Thibodeau, and they recover, the Giants do. And they go on to score there to make it 24-20. And look, credit to this Giants team. They get down, but they don't quit. And they quit almost on every opportunity last year with Joe Judge. It's not sustainable being down by 10 points every week, but they're finding ways to do it, and they're playing smart. You talk about Saquon. The Ravens tried to let him score with 1:17 to go in the fourth quarter, and they were the Giants were up 24-20, and my man falls down at the 1 yard line. I mean, it's wide open, jumping to the end zone, very easy. What Breech?
Now, I'm glad you brought that up because John Harbaugh has been making some perplexing decisions this year, and this was absolutely one of them. The Ravens are down 24-20, and he's over there saying, let's let them score the touchdown. Let's let them get this.
You have 11 points. Like, why would you want this?
But guess what? If you hold them to a 3-and-out here, the Ravens had all 3 of their timeouts, and the Giants were intent on just running up the gut and taking their field goal. If they you go run, timeout. Giants kick a field goal. You're down 27-20, and you have the ball with 55 seconds left with a chance to go tie it. And instead, Harbaugh's telling his team to let them get the first down or let them get the touchdown. And Saquon goes down at the 1. And once he had the first down, the Ravens timeouts didn't matter because the Giants were able to run out the clock. So I have no idea why the Ravens didn't try to stop the Giants before they got the first down.
Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about Saquon falling down and just keeping the ball and not trying to get into the end zone. The score, and maybe John Harbaugh was doing what I was doing, just not paying attention. Of course, my job is not to pay attention on every single play for the Ravens. That is his job. Breech, you want to discuss perhaps the most amazing thing of the whole entire week? Justin Tucker missing a field goal.
Oh my God! Why would I want to discuss it? It was heartbreaking. It was just made me sad. There was a tear, and that's one of those things that happen. With just when odd things start happening for the Ravens, and this is one of them. He had not missed a field goal since November 11th, 2021. He almost made it a full calendar year. Came within 3 weeks, had a 56-yarder bounce off the upright, and just one of those days where the Ravens just kept making uncharacteristic mistakes, whether it was the 2 turnovers that Brinson mentioned in the fourth quarter with Lamar Jackson's interception and his fumble. Justin Tucker's
those are pretty good job by Kayvon Thibodeau, who looks like a potential stud.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The previous series, the interception, that was the Giants' first interception of the year. So it was a terrible throw. And by the way, when they scored in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews to make it 20-10, it was the delay of game where the clock went down to 0, another beat, and another beat and a half, it felt like. And Brian Daboll was going crazy. Again, this is one of these stupid plays where all you have to do is say, if the clock hits 0, it's delay a game. We don't need the referee or the official, whoever's job it is, looking up, seeing what's going on. It's just
that's how they've done it.
Here's the thing: we don't do that in basketball. So, let's do that in basketball then. Let's just say, when the shot clock's at 0, have the referee look up and see if the guy shot the ball.
What if the referee has like an electrical thing on his wrist that shocks him, and then the whistle's in his mouth, so he goes. It makes him blow his whistle.
All right, here's something you can do. You can put rocket boosters on his feet, and if he doesn't get the call right, the rocket boosters go off and launch him into space. I guarantee you'll never miss a delay game again. But anyway, the point is,
like space.
He might like space. Maybe it's Elon Musk. Who knows? But the point is that the Ravens weren't gifted that touchdown. It was a nice play. They were helped. They were aided by the miss by the officials to make it 20-10 in a game that they eventually blew anyway, so it didn't matter.
Giants are now 5-1 in one possession games this season. That's right. Every single one of their 6 games have been decided by 8 points or less. They're the only team in the NFL this year to have each of their games be decided by 8 points or less. They were 3-3 in one possession games last year and have now surpassed their win total from last season already. Brian Daboll should be a massive favorite to be coach of the year right now, right? Maybe Robert Saleh's up there too.
What does this say about, are you happy or not happy if you're a Giants fan now knowing that you're going to have to keep Daniel Jones?
I don't think you're that upset about it.
I'm winning with Daniel Jones. I'm happy. Then he'll get 2 years. He'll have the same coach for multiple years and who actually knows what he's doing.
By the way, Daniel Jones, 4th game-winning drive this season. Career high, 4 game-winning drives this season. That's really impressive.
And they keep the pressure on him to a minimum. And it seems like he enjoys play. He did well on that game-winning drive. There was a 3rd and 4. I think the Giants were on their own 30 or 31 yard line, and it was just like, all right, is the moment too big for Daniel Jones? This was in the fourth quarter after the Ravens had just scored a touchdown on their drive and taking a 20-10 lead. So if they don't convert here, the game's probably over. And what does Daniel Jones do? He throws an 18-yard pass and was just like, all right, Daniel Jones, maybe this guy's for real. Danny dimes.
By the way, let's not forget to point out, we buried Daniel Jones plenty, so I don't want to be hypocritical about it, but here's the list of coaches he had before this season. Head coach Pat Shurmur and offensive coordinator Mike Shula. Head coach Joe Judge and offensive coordinator Jason Garrett. Head coach Joe Judge, offensive coordinators Jason Garrett and Freddie Kitchens. When you start to think about it, you start to really put that into place, and he made some mistakes earlier. Daboll's clearly worked with him. Just saying that,
Yeah, no, I was playing devil's advocate with that question. I think as a Giants fan, you'd be more than happy to have Daniel Jones back.
I think so too. All right, let's move on to the Bengals 30, Saints 26. Joe Burrow in his last 2 games in New Orleans has thrown for 763 yards and is responsible for 8 touchdowns, 8 of them passing, 2 of them rushing. He rolled up into the Superdome in Jamar Chase's, I believe it was like the actual jersey from Jamar Chase's national championship game. He and Chase had a big old game. Burrow finished the day with, I've lost my place on my, there it is. He finished the day with 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 28-37. Chase had 7 catches for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Saints, I mean, obviously scored 26, but it wasn't didn't feel like a superb offensive effort from Andy Dalton and company. 17-32, 160 yards and a touchdown. Now, finally, Andy Dalton has lost to the Bengals for the first time in his career. Breach.
Thank God. Because for a second, I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought Dalton was going to pull a rabbit out of his head. Is that what they say now? Out of his red head, the red rifle. This game was insane. This is exactly what I would expect from an Andy Dalton versus the Bengals game. I knew there was no way Cincinnati was going to blow this out. And, I think some people thought that because New Orleans was missing Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Marshawn Lattimore out in the secondary, which is huge when you're playing a team like the Bengals. And
Jarvis Landry.
So the Saints were missing some big names on both sides of the ball. And after about 3 possessions, it was like, oh my God, the Bengals cannot take advantage of any of this. The Saints are doing a lot of what the Ravens did, and they're going to make the Bengals dink and dunk everything to score points. And Joe Burrow is going to have to be patient. So this was a pretty crazy game. The Bengals struggled a little bit early. Trent Taylor, I think, fumbled a punt, and then the Saints turned around and scored. Very first drive. Saints scored 3 plays later on a Dalton touchdown pass, and it was just like, oh my God, it's going to be that kind of day. And then, you know what? Joe Burrow did what Joe Burrow does. I mean,
it's funny you say that because I was watching and I thought Andy Dalton was going to Andy Dalton it up. It wasn't entirely his fault. But 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Saints are up 26-21. Burrow gets sacked twice in a row to make it 4th and 20. They have to settle for a field goal with, like I said, around 4 minutes ago. I thought, okay, this is it. And then Burrow hooks up with Jamar Chase. They, make magic happen. Bada bing, bada boom. They're 3-3.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what happened. And when McPherson hit that 52-yarder, it really felt – that was the first time I was like, okay, I think the Bengals are going to win. Because the Saints, like Brinson kind of alluded to, their offense kind of struggled in this game. Yeah, they had a few big moments, definitely had a few big plays. There was a 40-yard touchdown run, and just they did enough to stay in this game, and they were good at slowing down what the Bengals were doing. And then obviously the Jamar Chase touchdown to win the game was just insane. For Chase to kind of just catch an out route, go up the sideline, and turn into a 60-yard touchdown was just bonkers.
Is the offensive line playing better?
I mean, you just mentioned a fourth quarter sack where Joe Burrow lost a bunch of yards and forced them to kick a 52-yard field goal. So Burrow got sacked 3 times. He was under pressure a lot. It wasn't ideal, but it's better in the sense that he didn't get sacked 6 times or 7 times.
Let me revisit this question. I think I know your answer, but just in case. Are you trading Penei Sewell for Jamar Chase, or are you still staying the course?
Keeping Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Chase.
Ever.
All right.
Did you ask him if Zach Taylor's a good coach too?
No, I didn't ask him that. Zach Taylor looks like he's been working out. He looked pretty good in his little black shirt there, but is he a good coach, Breech?
Same thing I say every week.
Saints went.
Sometimes he is the best coach. Sometimes he doesn't look like the best coach.
The Saints went 1 of 5 in the red zone.
Yes.
Thanks, Andy Dalton.
That's not going to.
That is why they lost the game.
Yeah, I mean, they could have easily. I mean, you look at the stats; it's a pretty even game. They were up, I believe, most of the game, right? I mean,
yep,
yeah, pretty substantial lead, 23-14, and then, I mean, it's got to be. They were missing Marshawn Lattimore and a bunch of other dudes. It's just,
yeah, the Bengals didn't hold any leads in this game till the Jamar Chase touchdown catch with 1:57 left.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow likes to close out, and he closed out.
Huge 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, and 1 rushing. I would be remiss if we did not mention that.
Thank you for not being remiss.
I wouldn't want to be remiss.
You're frequently remiss, so good job by you, Breech. Steelers 20, Bucs 18.
Game of the year, if you ask me.
Survivor, adios amigos, Survivor pools. By the way, just total, bloodshed in Survivor. If the Rams had somehow lost to the Panthers, it was going to be insane. I think that the circa by like the afternoon game starting, 45% of the remaining 700 people in the circa the millions had lost their entries. Steelers-Bucs was a big one, with the Steelers taking down Tom Brady to the score of 20-18. Kenny Pickett actually got hurt in this one. He's in concussion protocol. Mr. Trubisky came in. And I mean, Mr. Trubisky played pretty well on short notice, didn't he?
Oh my God, he was dealing. He looked like I'm not even kidding. He looked like 78% of Josh Allen at the time he was out there. I mean, 9 for 12 for 144 and a quarter and a half of work. That's some slinging on this terrible Matt Canada offense. Kevin Dotson, the left guard, I think that Brinson and or Breech would have played left guard better today than he did. He had 3 holding calls, including the one that got Kenny Pickett concussed. Like, he was such a bad at holding that he couldn't hold the guy long enough not to get Kenny Pickett body slammed. So that has to be fixed. We're talking about the Bengals offensive line. The Steelers offensive line has been a concern for a while. But, man, I give Mr. Trubisky credit. He came in there and he was absolutely slinging. He had completion. This is insane to me for a team that didn't score a first quarter touchdown until the very first drive of this game on Sunday this season. But here's the Steelers today with Mr. Trubisky. Were 5 of 7 on third downs. They converted a 3rd and 15, a 3rd and 13, a 3rd and 6, a 3rd and 11, and a 3rd and 15. I mean, you could play in all the other infinite universes that we currently reside in. That didn't happen in any of those other universes in this game today. This is the only one. So we're witnessing something truly special.
And 2 of those were on the final drive. Like,
to Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool, who's been non-existent all year.
9 touchdowns as a rookie, 2 last year. Didn't have 1 until today.
And it was like 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 11, I think, those 2, where it's like, because the
3rd
Bucs,
and 11 and 3rd and 15.
The Bucs were, it was a 3rd and 11, 3rd and 15. I thought it was a 3rd and 6 too. But the point being is that the Bucs were down. I mean, it was a close, low-scoring game most of the entire game. Bucs are down 13-12. Steelers, Trubisky hits Claypool for a touchdown. They're up 20-12. And then the Bucs get the touchdown with Tom Brady to Leonard Fournette. They fail on the 2-point conversion. And it was like, just get, as someone who's rooting for the Bucs for survivor purposes, it was like, just get a stop on this 3rd down.
Can't stop Mitch.
Stop Mitch on 3rd down. Go kick your field goal. Get out of there with a win. And it's just, I mean, really bad loss for the Bucs, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. Smash the like button if you're watching on YouTube and haven't already. Also, just like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, 3-3, the worst start in his career through 6 games for the 4th time in his illustrious career. 2002, missed the playoffs. Second year. First year as a starter, really. First year as the starter in week 1 anyway. 2005, they lost in the divisional round. 2015, lost in the conference championship. And then this year, obviously, we don't know what will happen. By the way, the $6 million we're talking about, that's not, I didn't have the Bucs in that one. We had the Eagles in that one. So that's $6 million still on the table.
Yeah, this is a terrible loss. Absolutely terrible loss for the Buccaneers. I think Breech, you mentioned earlier, they're still in first place in their division. I don't know if that matters, because when you look at what they've done, and let's look quickly here, they can't score points. They look like Matt Canada is coordinating up that offense. So they scored 21 against the Falcons. Is that right?
Yeah, they were leading pretty, like, they
21
scored
21 against the Falcons, 31 against the Chiefs the week before that. They lost that game. They scored 12 against the Packers. They scored 20 against the
I remember the 31 against the Chiefs was like a lot of garbage time too.
Saints, that's right, and 19 in the season opener against the Cowboys. So this team isn't putting up points. And you can say, well, Michael Gallup, Godwin was hurt for a while. He's back now. Okay, everyone has injuries. That's not going to fly. This offense is, I think it has concerns.
I think it's partially the offensive line, but it's also like, I mean, but we didn't give Bruce Arians enough credit for, I mean, Bruce Arians is pushing the envelope in terms of no risk and no biscuit, and now you have a defensive coach running things. I mean, it's a different.
Well, I mean, Byron Leftwich is still there, and I think Tom Brady probably has some say in the play calling. I think Tom Brady, maybe all the off-field stuff is catching up with him as well, but he just doesn't feel like Tom Brady.
He wasn't at the team's walkthrough on Saturday because he went to Robert Kraft's wedding.
Yeah, thank you. Let me mention this because my buddy Adam Gretz, I don't know if you. I think Brinson, you might work with him at Fan House back in the day, but he's a Steelers fan. And he tweeted this out. And I think it's a fantastic point. If any other quarterback skipped his team's walkthrough and arrived the day of the game to attend former owner's wedding and then crap the bed during the game, they would be absolutely vilified.
Remember when Romo and Witten went to was it somewhere in the Caribbean before in the playoff game with the bye week?
Oh,
And they're
vaguely. But I mean, there was the boat gate with the Giants players. Odell was on the boat. Yeah,
Yeah.
no one seems to. I mean, the man also missed 11 days during training camp. I mean,
they went to Cabo. That's right.
yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, do you think, when Tom Brady's your quarterback and you're winning games, everything's fine. But when you're treating a player, obviously, he's going to be treated a little bit differently. But when he's getting treating so much differently, do you think that any of the players think about it, especially after a loss like this, where like, it wasn't the walkthrough and he looked horrible on Sunday? And
is that
no,
true?
Only because like he's the greatest player of all time and he brought them a Super Bowl ring.
But wait a
Most of
second.
these guys on this roster have a Super Bowl ring because of Tom Brady.
Yeah, there's Odell back on the boat if you're watching YouTube. Is it true that Tom Brady didn't show up until Sunday morning for this game? Or was
I think he got there Saturday night.
Okay. No, Brinson, I'm pushing back against that. Like Peyton Manning's not doing that. And Peyton Manning got his teammates a Super Bowl ring in Denver, if you want to say that. Of course, he retired right after that, so there was no opportunity to sort of big time it. But I think this is extenuating circumstances. I said all the time, is Tom Brady doing this in New England? Hell no.
Hell no.
He's sitting on the Bull Durham bus with Bailey Zappi and sucking it up like everyone else.
And also, if Robert Kraft sent an invitation to Belichick, do you think he even responded knowing that the wedding was going to be in? I know it was a surprise wedding, but I'm sure Kraft said something to Belichick because you're not going to get married behind your head coach's back. And Belichick would have certainly said, yeah, send me like
Hey, Bob, listen, I'm really excited for you. Love Dana. She's fantastic. Obviously, we have the Browns. And
I won't be there.
Yeah. We send our best. Here's
Do we know that Belichick
here's a gift certificate of Fridays.
I would bet everything I own that Bill Belichick was not there.
Okay. All right. I buy it, but I don't want to see a picture. So I don't want you to
I didn't even know that
lose everything.
I didn't know Kraft was dating this lovely woman.
Why would you know that?
Dana Bloomberg. I don't know. I mean, it feels like Kraft. They started dating in 2019. How old is she?
47.
47.
She's younger than me.
Well,
slightly better looking. I'll give her that.
And she's a doctor, whereas you are not.
I'm a doctor of junior draft coverage. All right. Yeah, big win for the Steelers.
That's right. You don't understand.
Ryan, can they win the AFC North? They're only one game out of first place.
Oh, of course. They're right in the mix. I think the Browns are a worse team as we sit here. That'll presumably change when Deshaun comes back if he's not too rusty, but it's a fun win. Like zero expectations and, Breech, no disrespect, but
who would you take right now to win? I would say Bengals right now.
Ugh, God. Yeah, only because the Ravens can't get out of their own way.
The Bengals wouldn't even make the playoffs if the season started today, Breech, but sure. Keep on.
What?
It'd be the 8th seed.
How concerned on a scale of 1 to 10 are you about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Exact, a little bit lower than the Packers.
Really? I think it's higher.
It'd be a much easier division.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about just getting to the playoffs. They're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to lose by 50 points.
I don't think they're going to lose by 50.
Okay.
Their defense is good. They'll let's see how they kind of put it together the second half of the season.
Are they good? They just got Mr. Trubisky.
I mean, they lost on the road to. There was a lot of weird games today.
There's a lot of weird games every week,
right?
Yeah.
Maddening.
I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in the entire league that are better than 3-0.
I love that Billy doesn't even say move on. He just says pivot.
he knows it. I don't know, maybe he thinks move on
doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. All right. Pivot. Well done, Mr. Trubisky. You get the game ball.
Falcons 28, 49ers 14. Again, weird games. Talk about can the Steelers win the AFC North? Can the Falcons win the NFC South?
Yes, they can.
3-3, tied with Tampa at the top. Obviously, Tampa has the.
I'll just say this quickly. Last year, we made fun of the Falcons for winning 7 games by a total of 7 points or whatever. At least they're winning these games convincingly. Like, this was a big win. They were up 14-0, got tied, and they scored the last 2 touchdowns. So, yeah.
Falcons also 6-0 against the spread. Oh, there you go. Dang. Nice timing.
Only team in the NFL that's still unbeaten against the spread. I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago where we decided we have to apologize to Arthur Smith because he was way better at his job than we thought? I think we got to double down and now get an Arthur Smith tattoo because this guy has completely revived Marcus Mariota's career. And granted, they did have time together. They were in Tennessee together at the same time, so they're already.
And Marcus Mariota's career died while he was his offensive coordinator.
Not really.
In Tennessee, they replaced him.
He wasn't the offensive coordinator until Ryan Tannehill was a starter, so he never really got a chance to utilize.
Oh, really?
Marcus Mariota. And so what he did, he completely redesigned the Falcons offense. And this thing has just been, nobody knows what to do. I mean, they're just running all these little read options. Mariota actually keeps it because a lot of times people don't buy it because you don't think the quarterback's going to keep it because no one wants to see their quarterback get splattered on a hit by a defensive player. And no, Mariota's like, no, I don't care. I'll run it. 6 carries, 50 yards, and a touchdown. 13 of 14 for 129 yards. The guy only threw 1 incomplete pass, and he's doing this week in and week out. The Falcons have looked good. The Saints, they were beating the Saints in week 1, 26-10. Blew the lead. So this team could easily be 4-2. We all know what happened to the Buccaneers last week with the roughing the passer. Maybe they win that game if the roughing the passer is not called. So, I mean, I think this team is better than we think. And that, you just asked if they could win the NFC South. I say, why not, Brinson?
Are they better?
By the way, Breech, Marcus Mariota started 6 games in 2019 before he was benched midway through the season for Ryan Tannehill in the first year that Arthur Smith was offensive coordinator.
6 games together. That's not a dumb. I said they really didn't have any time together.
He got benched while Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator. Like
in Arthur Smith's first year as an offensive coordinator. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
In other words, my point that Arthur Smith was running the offense and Marcus Mariota's career died is accurate.
It didn't die that season, though.
You just said he got revived. That's when it ended.
It was on life support.
It's been dead for 2 years.
All right, listen. Let's not get hung up on this. Brinson won that one. You lost, Breech. Just take it. Is this
personally? I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
You don't have a choice. Is this Falcons team better with Mariota than Matt Ryan?
Yeah, because they could do this stuff that Arthur Smith wants to do.
So too.
And you can't do that with Matt Ryan.
I will say this feels a little different to Breech's point. Like the one of the touchdowns they scored early in the game, they scored it actually late in the first quarter. Jeff Wilson fumbled at the 21-yard line. AJ Terrell picked it up, tried to dive across the end zone, got knocked out like at the 1. And typically, a typical Falcons team, that ball goes out of the back of the end zone and it goes back to the 49ers. But Jalen Hawkins jumped on it. The ball took a weird bounce and that it didn't go straight out of bounds. It actually stayed in bounds. And he wasn't out of bounds when he touched it. So it saved them that stupid touchback rule. And that sort of feels like the Falcons season as a microcosm in one play, because typically, like we've said, they've been sort of pseudo laughing stocks, and now they've sort of found ways to win. And added bonus, as I mentioned in Slack, Arthur Smith will buy you a beer if you help him win a football game.
Love it. Selly beers.
Good deal.
Interesting schedule coming up for Atlanta at the Bengals. Oh, look at that. Arthur Smith pounded Bud Lights in the locker room. You'd love to see it. A lot of coach who pounds some Bud
Which,
Lights.
as we talked about on my pick show, Brinson, I really like the Falcons to cover.
I thought you were going to say you really like Bud Light.
I like Bud
So
Light.
they have the Bengals. They're at Cincinnati, and they're like 6.5-point dogs. Breech loves the Falcons against the spread. Then they have the Panthers at home, the Chargers at home, at the Panthers, Bears at home, at the Commanders, Steelers at home.
Well, they're losing the Steelers game, but I think they win all the other games.
I mean, those 7 games, like I don't think it's crazy to say they could go 4-3.
Yeah. I'm not going to push back on that.
Yeah, 4-3. I mean, 5-2 is not out of the question.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
if you get 4-3 or 5-2, I mean, they should beat the Panthers twice. The Panthers are really bad.
You get the Chargers in Atlanta for the classic West Coast game that kicks off at 10 a.m. Bears have no offense. The Commanders have Carson Wentz.
The chat wants to know if I can pound Bud Light like that. What do you?
Yes. Just take one wild guess, people in the chat.
Yeah, I can put that. Yeah,
let me put it this way: he and a teetotaler.
I mean,
so you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a big chance.
Yeah, I can put down some Bud Lights.
All right, but yeah, big win for the Falcons. I think to your overall point, Brinson, I don't know if this tells us much about the 49ers. They didn't have anyone like the defensive line that started in week 1. 0 of those players on the field because of injury. So again, a lot of teams are banged up, but even against the Falcons are actually 3-3, but even against lesser competition, if you don't have your starters out there, unless you're the Steelers, it's incredibly difficult to win football games.
There's a 3-way tie at top of the NFC West. That's insane.
And the best team we'll be talking about shortly.
Ooh, that's a tease. Is it the Seahawks or the Rams?
All right.
You know.
Moving along.
You know.
Patriots 38, Browns 15. Bill Belichick has 324 combined regular season and postseason wins, tied with George Hollis for second most all time. Only Don Shula, 347, has more. I think Belichick will definitely coach to beat Shula as long as it takes him. And maybe it won't take very long since Bailey Zappi is the new Tom Brady. Mac Jones is getting Drew Bledsoe. Zappi recorded 100 passer rating his first career start in week 5. He's the third rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to record a passer rating of 100 or higher in each of his first 2 career starts. Joining, any guesses as to who the 2 answers are to this trivia question?
What's the question?
100 or better passer rating in the third rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl era to record a passer rating of 100 or higher in each of his first 2 career starts. Who are the other 2 quarterbacks to do it?
Ben Roethlisberger and Andy Dalton.
Ding, 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 ding.
Is it Andy
What?
Dalton?
It's Andy Dalton.
No way.
It's Dan Marino and Andy Dalton.
That's insanity.
What a
I
rip.
cannot believe you guessed that.
Child, please. Child, please.
Oh my God.
CJ with some.
It's my
Worst.
favorite.
The whole
trivia
point of
ever.
the thing, the whole point of the thing was going to be able to like Breech wasn't going to know it was Andy Dalton. And I was going to be like, sorry, it's Andy Dalton. You said
I was, of course, joking. I said, "There's no way it's going to be the Red Rifle," and it was the Red Rifle, in fact. I'll just say this: one of our good buddies, who I will say he's in the Cleveland area. I won't say anything more than that. He texted me as this game was winding down and said, "This is a hog screwing," and he didn't use the word screwing, but his sentiment was the Browns have found new and inventive ways to lose football games they shouldn't lose. I didn't watch a lot of this. I did see the first series where Jacoby Brissett threw a terrible interception, and then I saw the subsequent highlights. And this game got out of hand in the fourth quarter, it looked like, just looking at the score.
this game got out of hand in the third quarter.
I don't know. And I said this last week on Cleveland radio. Like, Deshaun Watson isn't some magic elixir. Like, he hasn't played in 2 years by the time he gets back. He could be incredibly rusty. And this team is doing the exact opposite of what Cooper Rush is doing for the Cowboys. They're unstacking. They're stacking L's. They're not stacking W's. And they're losing games they shouldn't lose. I don't even think it's all Jacoby Brissett. He didn't play well today, but I don't know, man. This team remains not good for Cleveland Brownsian reasons. It feels
They could be 5-1.
Are they more disappointing than the Ravens or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
more disappointing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Really?
I mean, they're blowing games. It's not like they still had a talented team. They have Nick Chubb. They have a good offensive line. They have Myles Garrett. They like the quarterback was the only question mark. They should have beaten the Falcons. They blew a 2-touchdown lead in the final 2 minutes against the Jets. Like,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Kevin
And Joe
Stefanski-
Flacco.
here's the difference: is I think the Ravens are going to bounce back. Like, I still think they will be competing for a playoff spot. I do not think that about the Browns.
Yeah, we said before the season, it's like, there's also a possibility where if the Browns don't play well leading into Watson comes back, they have to win X number of games. He might be horrible the first 3 weeks of the season. He's be doing a totally new offense. He gets to be a little with the team more than like
Zoom
I guess most people would expect. And he's been injury prone. He's torn his ACL twice in his career, once in college and once in the pros. Like it's not a surefire thing that Deshaun Watson can come out of nowhere and like just having not played in 2 years and just be great.
Yep, I agree. Huge win for the Patriots. It feels like a Patriots win. They're somehow 3-3. Handsome Bill Belichick now has 324 wins. Second behind, well, he's tied with George Halas now. Second behind only Don Shula, 347.
So the Patriots schedule is really interesting. Bears at home, at the Jets, Colts at home, Jets at home, at the Vikings.
3-2.
4-1.
I think they're going to win the next 4 games.
They're going to split with the Jets.
I think no,
No, what?
they're going to sweep the Jets.
No, I like 3-2. I think I'll go 3-2.
Yeah, they're not. Splitting the
Belichick
Jets.
owns the Jets.
Yeah, he owns Eric Mangini and Rex Ryan. Excuse me, Rob.
What are you talking about? Well, no, I did not see Bill turn down the game ball. What was that?
I don't know. They
I
probably
will
offered
drop it in Slack so you guys can see it.
They probably
Because I've
offered him a
seen
game
that
ball, and he said no.
All the
That'd be my
trendy stuff
guess.
that happens.
Who's 41?
That is rookie Brendan Schooler.
Look at him.
Belichick's like, get that ball out of my face, you young man.
Yeah, you are cut, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Show up for work tomorrow.
I think
Get a
the
haircut.
Patriots are going to be 7-3 by the time they go to play the Vikings in Minnesota.
Okay. Breech is, I think, 3-2.
Well, I think you're.
We'll find out together.
Is Mac Jones going to be? He's out like 2 or 3 more weeks, right?
They're going to stick with Bailey Zappi.
No, I don't think they would stick with Bailey Zappi if
300 yards and 2 touchdowns in his second start.
They played against the Browns defense that basically is a bunch of stiffs somehow, even though they have a bunch of really good players. Bailey Zappi is not, and I can't believe I have to say this out loud, he is no McCorkle Jones. Breach. How dare you even?
Are you worried about this McCorkle Jones situation?
No, his ankle sprain, which is basically
ankle sprain.
It's a break in your leg, not even your ankles.
He's ankle sprain.
He's fine.
Okay.
The defense had only given up more than 300 yards passing in one game prior to this week.
This Browns defense stinks, and for you to suggest otherwise is a pox on your own house.
Do you remember when the last time the Patriots lost to the Jets was?
When Robert Saleh wasn't there?
2015.
It's a long time ago.
Belichick doesn't know the Jets.
You know what else 2015 was? The last time the 2 New York teams had a winning record together this late in the season.
That's right. Things didn't have an answer for that, did you?
Brinson's wig.
What?
That's right. Things change. Take that.
Okay. Things change, Mox.
Except my pancake recipe. It's been the same forever.
You can't change that. All right. What's next? Well done. Patriots, Browns.
Oh, by the way, shout out Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is the all-time sack leader in Browns franchise history.
Yeah, only because they started counting sacks halfway through Clay Matthews' senior's career.
Still insane that he's like,
1982.
And they only lost by 23 points.
All right. Let's take a break, and when we come back, rapid fire through the rest of the games next. By the way, Nathan Graber-McCrae says, stop holding Wilson accountable for Mac Jones. No. Wilson pounded the table for Mac Jones.
I'm still pounding. What are you talking about? You pounded the table.
What are you talking about? You sound like me.
Nathan, just so we're clear, Brinson's the man who had Jake Fromm going first overall in his mock draft.
In the immediately following the draft.
Jake Fromm currently sells insurance.
Well, he sold insurance when he came to the NFL.
That doesn't make me feel better. All right, rapid fire. Let's go.
You go ahead and tell me.
Oh, what are we doing? I don't know which games.
I don't know. I was going to look up your
Vikings-Dolphins is up next.
He's so vindictive. What'd you say, Breech?
Vikings-Dolphins is on the docket.
I'm just stopping by to say, fire Ryan Wilson.
Ryan Wilson, you are the worst.
I'm not completely sure how Mr. Ryan Wilson here has a job at CBS.
Well, the idiot is finally back. There is not a single analyst on this planet that is dumber than Ryan Wilson.
All right, bro. These mock drafts need to stop.
So my boy Ryan Wilson over at CBS Sports came out with his latest mock draft. Every week I pray that this guy will make a good mock draft, and he just can't do it.
At this point, I could get hired for freaking CBS Sports. Stay off the weed.
One of the only thing that binds that group together is that they all have yet to hit puberty. I enjoy listening to it, but these are a bunch of 13-year-olds that I can't say what I want to say. They don't have girlfriends, I would imagine.
Vikings 24, Dolphins 16. Teddy Bridgewater was forced into this game.
Forced into the game.
I mean, it's so weird. It's like they were overcorrecting for the Tua stuff on purpose. Like Tua cleared concussion protocol. They're like, we're not playing him. And then Teddy cleared concussion protocol, but they're like, we can't start him. And obviously, Skylar Thompson gets hurt. He was 7-13 for 89 yards when he went down. Teddy comes in, and maybe this is why 23-34, 329, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. But I think I would have rather had Teddy for the full game if I was in charge. Kirk Cousins 20-30, 175, 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook 13 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown long of 53. Felt like I guess Minnesota was sort of in control of this game almost the entire way. There was a late kind of garbage time touchdown pass from Teddy Bridgewater to Mike Gesicki. Pretty dominant effort from the Vikings.
Yes.
I'll just say real quick, the Dolphins played a lot better than, considering their circumstances where both Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater played in this game. They were hurt by missed field goal in the first half. Teddy Bridgewater then threw an interception with under 30 seconds left in the first half, which gave the Vikings time to drive down and get a field goal. That was a huge problem. And then there was also one other, the turnover. Jalen Waddle fumbled. It was 16-10, and the Dolphins were driving down to possibly take the lead, and he loses the fumble. Vikings go down, score a touchdown, game over. So,
Bad fumble. Yep.
Bad mistakes by
But
the
here's
Dolphins.
the good thing. Like they have some get right games in their future. You have their schedule in front of them. Brinson, I'll bring it up real quick if you don't. They play the Steelers next.
Then the Lions.
So they play
Then
the
the Bears.
Steelers. They host the Steelers. It'll be 1,000 degrees in South Florida. At the Lions, as Breech notes. At Chicago, Cleveland, and then you're bye. And then after that, they have Houston. So 3-3 is not a terrible place to be when you don't have your quarterback. Tua comes back next week. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, he can stay healthy and follow. The rest of the world can follow the protocols in the future. But it's 3-3. They had an opportunity to. The Bengals game. Did they have a chance? That's when Tua got hurt. So that's sort of when things flipped for them. They started 3-0. So yeah, I mean, it's not the way you want to. The last 3 weeks aren't perfect, but
remember they started 3-0, but they had 2 fluke scores. And again, I'm not trying to dog the Dolphins. There's just like they had 2 fluke scores early on again, or that first game against the Patriots, that the Waddle touchdown and a strip sack on the goal line. They had the crazy comeback against the Ravens, and then they sort of stole one from the Bills.
Actually, it's not so crazy. The Ravens like to let teams beat them.
So you're saying we have no idea if the Dolphins are actually good?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much.
They're fine.
They got blown out by the Jets. They're not okay. What do you think the odds are to win the AFC East?
Well, they're now the
Bills are minus 1,200. So
they're the 4th best team in the division.
The Dolphins, they're 14-1, second best odds. Patriots 18-1. Jets 22-1.
No, on the wins over Wilson,
the Jets are 22-1. They're only 1 game out of first place.
Yeah,
they're not winning the division, but if you can bet on who comes in second place.
The Waddle TV. I'm talking about the Waddle TV from week 1. That was a fluke. It was. I mean, it's a 4th and 7 at midfield with 47 seconds left against the Patriots. That doesn't happen very often. What do you think the odds for the NFC North are?
Minus 500 Vikings.
Minus 320 for the Vikings.
Wow, that's really.
Packers are plus 250.
What are the Bears?
40-1. Bears 80-1.
What do I have to bet to win with the Lions?
The Lions
40-1. I just told you that.
Yeah.
What?
All right. Great win for the Vikings.
All right.
Vikings look like they're going to win the division.
Rams 24, Panthers 10. Matthew Stafford threw the 29th pick 6 of his career, tied for the second most in NFL history, along with Hall of Famer Dan Marino.
Who's number 1?
The only person with more.
Hall of Famer Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. That's right.
I'll just say this. What is it? 32-29? Is that the score on the pick sixes?
I think Stafford plays at the right.
As long as Stafford doesn't build a volleyball stadium with government funds earmarked for poor people, he can throw all the pick sixes he wants, and I won't think any less of it.
Wilson.
Allegedly.
Christian McCaffrey heavily involved in this game. The announcers kept mentioning possibly showcasing him for a trade. PJ Walker, as it turns out, not a huge upgrade over Baker Mayfield. 10-16 for 60 yards. Jacob Eason also came in 3 of 5 for 59 yards and an interception. Stafford wasn't great. The run game was okay.
This Rams team stinks. If they weren't playing this terrible excuse of a football team, the Carolina Panthers, they would have lost this game.
They're not great, man. They're 3-3. They got to figure out how to get the offensive line fixed, and they'll be fine.
How do you figure that out in the middle?
I don't know. You got to coach guys up. You got to get some continuity. Get some reps under your belt. I guess. I mean, that's the only answer.
Any more cliches that could help pull this thing together?
Yeah.
At least the upside for the Rams. The upside for the Rams that Matthew Stafford finally realized he had other people to throw to besides Cooper Kupp. We saw Allen Robinson had 5 catches. They had a couple players, 3 players who had 4 more catches besides Cooper Kupp. So that's a good thing.
Against the Panthers team that has 4.5 players, one who quit in the middle of the game or was asked to leave, and Christian McCaffrey, who won't say it out loud, but I imagine he would love to be traded to a team like the Bills.
So the Robbie Anderson thing, I mean, he's like a Temple guy. Would you expect that? Like, this guy was be thrilled that they fired Matt Rule?
Are they not paying him a salary to act like a normal person at work? What are you talking about?
I'm not saying he. I mean, Robbie Anderson's a bizarre guy, man. Like,
I mean, after the game, he pretended like nothing happened. I was like, what? I don't even know what happened.
But I mean, I don't know what Matt Rule and Temple has to do anything. Matt Rule is terrible at his job.
It was like a peaceful Antonio Brown situation.
Well, look, I will say this: Robbie is a weird dude, but at least he kept his uniform on and didn't like strip on his way out of the.
And he did what he was asked. Like,
dude, Robbie Anderson's like Matt Rule's dude.
I don't care.
Well, I'm just telling you that's why he melted down. Like that's
not why he melted down. He was mad at the wide receivers coach for whatever wasn't happening. I mean, Matt Rule's a defensive guy, so I don't know what they're doing in terms of game planning on Sundays. Like if Matt Rule's saying call this specific play for Robbie Anderson.
No, I think okay, fine. You're right. Robbie Anderson's not upset about Matt Rule.
And Robbie Anderson had 0 targets. But like, what's the receivers coach supposed to say? Like, hey, bro, our quarterback now is PJ Walker. Like, what do you want me to do?
I just don't think Matt Rule has anything to do with it. Like, I know they were at Temple together, and that's great. But, I mean, it's not like this is an internship where you can just walk out if you're angry. You're getting paid. Did he just get a new contract or not?
Yeah. I think he got one
not too long ago, right?
Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
So if they tell you go there and block, go there and block. Or if you're mad with Matt Rule, go take the U-Haul ride with him back to wherever he's going.
Okay. I
give Steve Wilkes credit. He was calm. He said, sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Like he bounced him out of the club very politely. And, Robbie, our buddy Donna Edwards, who's produced this podcast a few times, and then he, for some reason, hightailed it out of here. I don't know why. But he's a huge...
Billy is the producer, and so now I can focus on doing Eye on College basketball.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
That makes sense. But he tweeted afterwards, because he follows the Panthers pretty closely. Let's see what he tweeted. He tweeted, Robbie didn't have the smoke for Rule, but wanted to act up as soon as the substitute teacher came around. And that's exactly how I felt about it. Like, he didn't say anything when he wasn't getting targets with Matt Rule because they're boys, as Brinson notes. But Steve Wilkes,
regardless of what's been going on the past week, I always keep my head down and keep working.
Well, that's not true because we saw exactly what happened on Sunday.
All right, let's move on. The Panthers are the worst team in football, I think.
Yes. Yeah, David Tepper was there. How do you think he felt about watching that game?
Probably not
good. He wanted to sell him and buy a new team.
Seahawks 19, Cardinals 9.
First place Seahawks.
Say it. What's his name? You remember?
What's his full name? Eugene
Cyril Smith III.
I like that you're trying to take the Seahawks bandwagon away from me.
You can have the Seahawks bandwagon. I was leading the bandwagon of people saying that the Seahawks are going to suck this year in the preseason. And I'm one of the people that wrote Gino off. He didn't write me back, but I'm willing to support Gino because
everybody thought the Seahawks were going to suck this year. The Seahawks and the Falcons are the two teams that were buried consistently.
I'm going to say this with a
straight I had the face. Cardinals in last place in my predictions.
They suck. That we can all agree that they suck. But with a straight face, I'm going to say this: Geno Smith should be in the MVP conversation. Who disagrees with me?
Not at all.
Breech.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah. He's leading the league in completion percentage. He's absolutely dealing out there. He ran for 48 yards today. Every time I looked up watching the game, he was scrambling for more yardage.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the Seahawks are tied for first in the NFC West in a season where people thought they were probably going to be 0-6 6 weeks in the season, they somehow have 3 wins. I think you could certainly make the argument because their defense has been non-existent for 5 weeks, suddenly showed up today somehow, and just absolutely stifled the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, watching the Seahawks defense actually do something was like, oh my God, if they start doing this, if they play just 40% better than they did the first 5 weeks of the season, this team actually could be good. And we got a taste of that in this game.
What are the chances that Geno comes crashing back to earth in the next month?
0.
Think so? You think he can maintain
0? I will say, like, the Geno in the MVP conversation reminds me a little bit of maybe Alex Smith that year, 2016, I guess, where
was that the Chiefs?
Yeah, Chiefs. Last year with the Chiefs, he was midseason MVP for some people, and you kind of knew it wasn't going to last. But dude, like Geno looks great out there. I mean, he's slinging dimes. He
is playing so well that no one on planet Earth, including Ciara, would say that Russ Wilson's playing anywhere close to Geno Smith's level.
Future, a huge winner in this Geno Smith.
Oh boy, wow, that is a punch below the belt.
Literally. Seahawks at the Chargers, Giants at home, at the Cardinals.
Hey, Breech, so I got a question for you. Why is Cliff Kingsbury such a terrible coach?
Ryan, that's a great question. I don't think that. I honestly don't think. He pretends like everything's always hunky dory, but in fact, it does not.
I will say
like
this: starting, Cliff Kingsbury has never said the term hunky dory. Go ahead.
It does not seem like him and Kyler are ever on the same page. I mean, does that seem weird? It's a starting quarterback. They're tied together for the next 7 years unless one of them gets cut or fired or traded.
Well, Brinson always brings up, or maybe you bring it up. They just signed him to a new deal. I don't think that matters. I think that reflects poorly on Steve Keim.
This is the line from Kit Summers of AZ Central. He's a columnist for azcentral.com. This is a clip from it. All the above is the responsibility of a head coach, especially one who calls offensive plays. And it emphasizes the arrogant mistake owner Michael Bidwell made last spring to sign Kingsbury and general manager Steve Keim to contract extensions through 2027. I mean, it's not wrong. Kingsbury didn't kick 3 field goals inside of 50 yards because he didn't trust the kicker. And Kingsbury actually admitted that much afterwards. They went into the game thinking we can't kick anything outside of 30 yards. So we had to go for it. That is just poor roster management and poor coaching.
As Breech noted, they scored 9 points against one of the worst defenses.
They scored 3 points. The other 6 came on a fumble return touchdown.
And then
also Kingsbury was vindicated because his kicker missed the extra point on that fumble return touchdown. And then you could say, well, it's his fault for not bringing in a kicker who can make something from 50 yards. But it's not like you have a ton of options at this point. But yeah, you can't go into a game and say, oh, I don't trust my kicker, so we're just not going to kick field goals, especially in a game where points were at a premium. One of his early possessions in the first quarter, they passed up a 4th and 4. They could have tried a 38-yard field goal. They decided to go for it. They got nothing.
You know when you don't try a 38-yard field goal? When you're coaching a high school team that doesn't have anyone on the team that can kick.
I would say that was the only one that was. The other 2 4th downs where they could have kicked field goals were 4th and 2. And I do feel like at both points in the game, he was probably thinking that he felt more comfortable with the ball in Kyler's hands than having his kicker out there kicking a field goal.
Someone asked in the comments who gets fired first, Cliff Kingsbury or Nathaniel Hackett. And the extenuating circumstances are that Hackett just started the job and that Cliff Kingsbury just has a new deal.
The Cardinals just aren't firing it. They're just not going to clean house. They've given all those extensions to Kyler.
So you're just going to win 3 football games for the next 3 years and just say, well, sorry.
The biggest difference is that the Bidwills gave Kyler this extension, whereas the Walton family had nothing to do with the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett. And if they don't want him, they're like, hey, sorry, man. We'll get you a job at Walmart, but you're done here.
I don't know what the Bidwells, how they made their money, or if it's just football. I mean, we know
well and stuff.
But we know the Waltons are the Walmart people, and typically, when you make money in another line of work, and if you invest in something that's not working, you move on from it, and you fire the dumbass that told you to invest in the first place. Which is
Ryan. The Bidwells have owned the Cardinals since 1933.
So they're like the Rooneys. That's their only.
Except they don't have half as many Super Bowls.
Yeah. Okay.
Or any.
But they don't have another line of work. Is your point?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Actually, born in Chicago, Bill Bidwell and his elder brother Charles were adopted by Charles and Violet Bidwell, owners of the then Chicago Cardinals.
Oh, so they came from Chicago.
Interesting.
Fire Cliff Kingsbury, Chicago.
The Seahawks are fun. The Cardinals are just.
They are fun. I like what. And Gino's playing with a ton of confidence. Ken Walker had a good day today, 21-97.
And look, to be clear, when I said that the Seahawks are my bandwagon, I wouldn't, not before the season, I wasn't on them. But I mean, several weeks ago, I was betting on the Seahawks to win the division like 6-1. Finally.
And real quick, the Cardinals get back to DeAndre Hopkins, and they play this Thursday. So maybe that will flip things around.
It won't.
Okay.
Colts 34, Jaguars 27. Speaking of bandwagons, I toot my own horn. Got to bury myself too. The Jaguars had a real chance to win this game.
How do you bury yourself? Just out of curiosity.
With a shovel and some dirt.
All right.
Just scrape the dirt over
It can be done.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Cell phone video of him doing it tonight.
Yeah,
it's in the backyard.
Jaguars now 2-4 after their great start. The Colts 3-2-1 and just right back in the mix. I mean, the Colts are, I believe, they're the 7th seed. If the season ended today, Frank Reich's doing his thing again. Matt Ryan looked pretty good in this game. Were we dead wrong on the Colts?
Here's the thing: like Colts fans were booing the Colts for a lot of this football game because they were Coltsing it up early on. At one point, let's see, it was 14-10. The Jaguars were up. I'm not sure how much they built the lead up before things started falling apart for them.
21-13, and then the Colts scored 13 unanswered. Jaguars came back down. Trevor Lawrence had a great drive. Scored a touchdown with 2:48 left. Threw a pass to Christian Kirk. Used his legs a lot on the drive. 10 minutes, 18 plays, 84 yards, 10 minutes. My goodness gracious. To take a 1-point lead, perfectly timed. Your defense has to get a stop. I'm trying to think how the Colts got into field goal range. It looked like they were going to kick the field goal, and then was there like a false start maybe? And they had to, like they decided to chunk it downfield, and Alec Pierce just got open and scored a touchdown.
It really was a weird play because it was 3rd and 13, and it was like the Colts have Chase McLaughlin, so it's not like they have a guy who's been there. They don't have Justin Tucker. And so you're thinking they probably want to get at least 5 or 6 yards here to give him a better chance rather than send him out there for a 50-yard field goal to win the game. And instead, Matt Ryan literally just chucked this ball up in the air that somehow turned into a 32-yard touchdown. It literally made no sense that this happened.
It was very bizarre because they were down 27-26. And if you take just any sort of crosser or any sort of like curl, just anything to get a couple of yards, I mean, you can do a draw. I mean, anything. And you have a good look at a field goal and to take the shot down the field. I mean, look, great. You know, you win the game, but like it was a weird spot to take a shot down the field. I was thinking they somehow got backed up for some reason, but I guess not.
I literally just went back to look at the clip to see if that was all. No, it was just Matt Ryan said, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm just going to throw it down, and I don't care if I leave my kicker hanging out.
Low too. That could have been roughing the passer. He got hit low by a a Jaguars defender when he threw it up there. 3 guys short and just 1 deep route, and Pierce beat his guy and scored. It's a crazy decision.
And the other thing, another crazy decision, the first 6 possessions of the second half all ended in touchdowns except for one. And that is where Jacksonville failed on a 4th and 1 from the Colts 32-yard line because Dougie P decided to call a quarterback option. Like just the worst play call you could ever imagine. It got blown up. It had no chance of succeeding. And when you have, 33 carries for 243 yards in the game, just run up the middle. All
right. Finally, what do we think the division odds to win the AFC South are?
Titans are minus 450.
150.
What? Colts are plus 120 is the top team.
The Colts?
Yes, Ryan, the Colts.
Why not the Titans?
Because the Colts have a half-game lead over the Titans?
No, the Titans have a half-game lead over the Colts.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Take that.
What are the Titans odds?
Plus 160 for the Titans.
I would crush the Titans.
Jaguars plus 370. Texans 30-1.
I don't know why the Colts are favored. That seems weird to me.
Titans already have a win over the Colts, and they're currently in first place.
And they're playing a ton better. Like
Matt Ryan,
Ryan.
They're playing the Colts next week. What a perfect way to end, right? Preview for week 7.
Preview for week 7. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. For Breech, for Wilson, I'm Brinson. We will be back, of course, Monday night after the primetime game. Smash the like button, turn on alerts so you're notified when we go live. See you guys later.